Hey everybody, Rob Hogue here, Bass Stalker Fishing. I want to do another top 5 for you guys today, and this one's going to be your top 5 fall baits. These are obviously going to be, this is my opinion, these are my top 5 fall baits, and it probably changes depending on who you talk to. Um, I'm always going to have these 5 baits tied on in the fall. And I'm gonna definitely have other stuff tied on too, and there's gonna be days where some of that other stuff's gonna outperform these. But I think these 5 baits give you the best chance of catching fish on any given day. So let's get into them. These are in no particular order, but they're all great in the fall. First, I like to start with a topwater, some kind of topwater walking bait. This is a Strike King Sexy Dog. This is a junior that's a little smaller size. I have the same color on a bigger size already on one of my poles for tomorrow. So it's a walking bait. It's a walking topwater bait. It kind of walks the dog back and forth. But topwater action is great in the fall because, like I've said before, the fish are up shallow, and when there's bigger fish up shallow and you get that topwater action going, if you can get a topwater bite going, there's not a better way to catch fish. So that's number one. Number two would be your trusted spinnerbait. It could be a double willow, it could be a willow Colorado, or even a double Colorado, depending on the water. But they're just good baits. They imitate bait fish really well, and that's what the fish are going after in the fall. So anytime you can imitate the forage, that's going to be good. And the spinnerbait stood the test of time. So this is definitely a great bait to have tied on in the fall. Three is your KVD 1.5, 2.5, 8.0, the square bill crankbaits. I've told you before why I love these baits. They're good in open water because of their erratic swimming action, and they're also great on logs and things like that. And the reason why logs and laydowns and stumps are going to play an important role in the fall, in the shallows at least, is because your vegetation's starting to die back. So as your vegetation starts to die back, those bass are going to move to the next available cover. And a lot of times that's either going to be a drop off, or they're going to move to wood. They're going to move to the docks. They're going to move to the laydowns. They're going to move to the stumps. So these square bill crankbaits, like I said, they do well in open water, but they do great when you're fishing them around wood. So definitely another bait you want to have tied on. Four would be some kind of lipless crankbait, rattling lipless crankbait. This is just a Strike King red eye shad. These are just great baits, especially when those weeds do start dying. They start getting closer to the bottom. These baits are great. You can burn them in, so they'll imitate bait fish, but you can also yo-yo them. You can cast them out, let them fall down to where it's ticking the weeds, and then rip them out and let them sink again. Rip them out and let them sink again. A lot of times when you rip these baits out of the weeds, that's when you're going to trigger those strikes. So this is another great bait in the fall time. And lastly would be just a jig. This is a Strike King Hack Attack jig. I like jigs in the fall because bait fish isn't the only forage the bass are eating, and not the only forage that start to move shallow. Crawfish will also make a migration to the shallows a little bit, and jigs, one of the best imitators of that, and it's a big bait. So you're gonna get bigger bites with this bait. It's going to attract the bigger fish. And a little tip, I like fishing if the lake's weeds are dying back. I like to fish a jig with a little bit of blue in it. This is a Hack Attack Okeechobee color jig. The reason I like throwing a jig color or a jig with a little bit of blue in it in the fall when the weeds are dying back is because crawfish change color. And when they're eating dying vegetation, they'll start to turn a bluish tint to them. So to me, this is the most realistic color to throw in the fall because those weeds are dying back, and those crawfish, they're starting to get a little blue on the claws and stuff like that. So this is imitating them very well. whether it's this is like a green pumpkin and blue color. It's called Okeechobee, but a black and blue if you're in dirty water. Now, if you're on a lake that has healthy vegetation, um, a lot of times that'll give the claws like a red tint to them. So you might want to throw like a brown and orange or a pumpkin and with a little bit of red flake in it. But in the fall, I'd like to start with a jig that has blue in it, just because those weeds are dying back. But yeah, these are 5 baits I'm always going to have tied on in the fall. I think overall those are going to produce more than other baits. So give them a shot, and I hope it works out. Thanks, everybody.